Hello dear viewers and welcome back to the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. Today we'll be taking a look at the game Dawn of War. Dawn of War is a real-time strategy game set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. It was developed by Relic Entertainment, published by THQ and was released in September 2004. Before we begin, dear viewers, could I just ask that if you enjoy what I do down here in the ancient hold, that you might subscribe to the channel. I appreciate every single person that does so, and it goes a long way in supporting my little channel. So, another Warhammer 40,000 game, and dear viewers, it is a good one. I remember playing this game many years ago when my beard was not quite so long. I have fond memories of my time with this game, and after talking with friends of their own collective joy, I decided it was ripe for the picking and the subject of this here video. Warhammer 40,000 is a universe created by Games Workshop, developed initially for their tabletop miniatures game involving great armies of plastic and metal painted up and meeting each other on the fields of battle. Many dice are rolled and a good time is had by all. In that universe, in the years 40,000, the human race is beset on all sides by alien races, like orcs, wily Dark Elder, or the Great Devourer known as the Tyranids. Besides this, they must also contend with the great evil itself, the gods of chaos, and all their foul machinations. It would seem that the human race is doomed to be destroyed, but besides the heroic Imperial Guard, Cadia stands. There exists armies of superhuman beings known as the Space Marines, the Angels of Death. These are humans that have been souped up with genetics, now standing tall with the ability to withstand great wears upon their bodies and dish out punishment to all that would defy the will of the Emperor. They are divided into chapters, roughly 1,000 strong, each with their own rituals and traditions, and all swear allegiance to the Emperor of mankind. It is with one of these chapters of Space Marines that we join Dawn of War. In it, you take control of the Blood Ravens chapter, most likely linked in heritage to the Blood Angels, as you try to defend humanity against evil threats on the planet Tartarus. You must lead this intrepid force of Space Marines by gathering resource nodes, building bases, and training superhuman soldiers and vehicles before committing to battle with all who seek to dim the light of the Emperor. Dawn of War is nearly 20 years old, and perhaps you could assume the graphics might seem a bit outdated or not particularly nice looking. They are old, yes, but I think they are holding up really well. Without doing some fancy things to some game files, you are unable to play the game on a more modern resolution, with the game screen being more box-like with black blocks on either side of the game screen on most widescreen monitors. The textures are quite low res compared to modern times, and the poly count is down there too, but I think the quality still holds up well. A large part of this is because most of the time in game you're not zoomed in, looking at them all up close, but rather you are zoomed out to a tactical view of the battlefield, and thus you cannot make out all of the models on screen. It's funny actually, because with painting miniatures, if you look right up and close to a finished one, you might see brush strokes or layers of paint. But standing back from the tabletop, you will not see any of it at all. All you would see is a cracking looking miniature. All of the units in game, both friend and foe, are very faithful representations of their depictions from the tabletop at the time. A Space Marine looked the part with the big power armour and thundering weaponry. A Dreadnought looked like a fallen Space Marine interred inside the walking body of a mechanised force of fury. The same goes for the looks of the Space Orcs, with their foot troops, knobs and war bosses being great facsimiles of their miniatures. Everything looks and feels like 40k, which is most important. Relic Entertainment really nailed it here. Not only do units in game resemble their plastic counterparts, but sound like they might as well. Space Marines will take orders with cries to the Emperor and the destruction of the enemies of mankind, while Orcs will sound like rambunctious hoodlums out to smash anything they come across. The Elders sound duplicitous and scheming, while the forces of chaos are evil, calculated and brutal sounding. The main characters are also fully voiced and sound appropriate to their station. Again, mighty battle cannons sound impressive, and that reassuring thunder of bolt guns is always apparent. Overall, the look and feel, the vibe of Warhammer 40,000 is greatly enshrined in this here game. You begin the battle with a thundering planetfall of the mighty Blood Raven Space Marines onto the battle-scarred fields of Tartarus. It is here that you have come to assist in the defence of the planet against the Wa of the rampaging Orcs. From your landing site, you must push back the filthy Xenos before advancing onwards. Each stage, or level, or map will begin fairly similarly, with you taking charge of several units and buildings of Bloodraven Space Marines. From here, you'll build new structures, train more units of Space Marines and manufacture weapons of war, all the while defending your base and securing more resource points. You will then do battle with opposing forces, each controlling the movements and actions of each of your units until there is only one survivor. There are several resources that you must keep an eye on and increase whenever you can. These are power and requisition. Requisition is similar to gold or credits in other RTS games and is used to train troops, build buildings and everything else. To gain requisition, you must take control of strategic points on the battlefield. These can be captured by either side and are vital to your success on any given map. Power is used, you guessed it, to power all of your buildings and advanced units, and you will require more as you build more powerful structures in your base. During each mission, you can train servitor units that function like builders or peasants or peons or what have you from other RTS games. They build and maintain all of the structures you can create. Each building you can construct is tied to the level of the headquarters building, with higher tech buildings require a higher level HQ. You can upgrade the HQ with enough resources. Each building provides different functions and benefits to your side. Some, like the armory, will provide researchable buffs and upgrades to your units, while a barracks will allow you to recruit units of Space Marines and some grenade upgrades. So on each map you must build up and protect your base, acquire and defend strategic points while building up your forces to defeat the enemy. Your buildings can only be built within the control zone of your base and therefore cannot be built wherever you like on the map. Controlling strategic points and building new headquarters can provide additional coverage. The Space Marine units you train start off with just a few members of the squad, but can be upgraded and filled out with more Marines by spending resources, up to a total of 9 per squad and 4 weapon upgrades. Your standard Space Marine uses a bolt gun to fire pain upon the enemies of the Imperium, but there are 4 different weapons you can upgrade to: plasma gun, missile launcher, heavy bolter and flamer. This flexibility and choice allows you to tailor your squads to suit the state of the battlefield. For example, if you're up against a lot of enemy vehicles, then missile launchers would be best, while if there's infantry, then perhaps the heavy bolter would be the wise choice. I like this flexibility in squad makeup, allowing your troops to be melded to suit your needs rather than training a specific unit type like grenadiers or heavy weapons troops. So instead of lots of infantry types, you can just train tactical squads and then tool them up. Of course, there are some extra powerful elite troops you can unlock later on in the campaign. The squad generation is something I haven't really seen before. If you're in a firefight and lose all but one member of a squad, then all is not lost. With a little time and resources, you can grow the squad back up to full strength. Every mission you will have at least one hero unit to control, which is the captain of the Bloodraven's 3rd company. You will usually have the librarian too, plus the odd hero. These individual characters are very strong and when attached to a unit can increase their strength and morale greatly. The captain has some morale abilities and is later able to call down an orbital bombardment upon the enemies of the Emperor. The librarian is also able to cast some psychic abilities, which are basically the magic of the 40k universe. The combat in Dawn of War is most fun. You'll control your units as you bring the battle to the enemy, moving them into good positions to engage thy foe. Your units can be set into several stances like holding ground, being defensive or overtly aggressive. One thing I would remark is that when set in certain stances, units would be quite obstinate when being told to move somewhere while under fire, preferring to ignore my commands and keep shooting. When engaging with the enemy, it is quite important to have a good control of your troops if you can, pulling some back if they are taking too much damage or pressing onwards to destroy the enemy. It is quite important to use the right tool for the job in terms of weaponry. If you're against massed, low armour infantry, you want lots of heavy bolters and flamers and such, but if you have more armoured troops arrayed against you, then plasma guns are very useful. Indeed, it is wise to field a mix of munitions to combat whatever you may face. I quite enjoy dreadnoughts, so would overfield a lot of those rather than battle tanks and such. You can, if you like, and likely will, go for the good old death blob tactic. This is training up as much stuff as the game will allow you and then sending all of it in one go at the enemy position, hoping to wipe them out in one fell swoop. The story of the Bloodravens on Tartarus is actually quite involved and not some tacked-on addition added late in development. It follows the captain and the librarian characters as they initially battle the orcs and then later onto more chaotic foes. You learn of some of the history of the two Space Marines, what the good captain had to do to his beloved home planet, and of the years that they've served together. There is a plot going on here that is quite interesting, and though no great Shakespearean epic, it is cool to follow. There are a lot of cutscenes where our heroes discuss what is happening, as well as interactions with the various enemies. As well as making a fun and legitimate real-time strategy game, Relic created a decent little story as well. Besides the main base campaign, you can play in custom skirmish maps, as well as trying for some online multiplayer if you can find some people to play against. There is also a host of DLC for the title, bringing in all of your favourite armies of the 40K universe. Dawn of War, at nearly 2 decades old, still holds up as a great RTS. It works very much like the classic RTSs of old, providing an engaging game loop, decent tactical depth, and lots of satisfaction as your dreadnought smashes an orc into the ground. There is still a community around it as well, with the modding scene very much still alive and well. Relic gave 40k players a very good foundation on which to build upon, with all the downloadable content and mods that you can employ. Truly, the base game and its campaign that I've shown you here is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. Regardless of whether you like Warhammer 40,000 or not, Dawn of War is a great example of an RTS, and worth playing most definitely if you enjoy the genre. You don't need to be a die-hard fan of the universe to enjoy this game. Instead, you can happily move your big muscly dudes around the map and smash the enemy with stomping mechs and tanks. It is a shame that there's been a lack of new and exciting games in this genre. I grew up playing Command & Conquer, Red Alert and Warcraft and such, so this type of game is always a dear one, even if I'm not particularly good at it. I hear there are some good modern games of this genre out there, so I'll keep a dwarven eye out for any that might take my fancy. Dawn of War is often on sale with all the many DLCs. You can pick it up on GOG or Steam, and though very much worth it at full price, if you can get it on sale, it's an absolute steal. You'll get lots of fun out of this one. And there we are, dear viewers. Another game from this here dwarf from the Ancient Hold. It was good fun to play, and I'm glad to share it with you. I hope you're doing well, and I shall see you next time.
My aim shall not falter. My aim